There's no country anymore, man.
No, I think what's happening is that we have been in World War III since 9/11, and it's a slow war. They don't want to declare it. They don't want to tell you, but they're just at war, and they are moving like they're at war. And so anyone that complains, they're just going to ignore it because we're at war.
We're in the looting phase.
We've been at war since forever. I mean, the Korean War, Vietnam.
The Patriot Act turned us inward.
The Patriot Act did a lot. But what did the Patriot Act do that you're concerned about?
Well, it made Americans fear that they could be squashed by their government if they speak out against them.
How? Like what specifically in the bill are you concerned about?
Like warrantless spying and things like that.
There's no warrantless spying.
There's lots of it.
They claimed they were never warrantless spying. The issue is not, in my opinion, the Patriot Act. There's a lot of bad things in it, of course. The issue is that the United States has been at war constantly, nonstop. We had Desert Storm in the early 90s.
Oh, I know.
It's not just 9/11. They've been doing this endlessly.
9/11 changed. So much changed after 9/11. The Homeland Security, all these departments.
Homeland Security for sure through the Patriot Act.
Yeah, so much weird stuff got put into place and just pushed after that in the 2 years after 9/11.
It's fair to say that 9/11 did change the world because I think that it's clear that it did. But I think that the surveillance state that we live under now, it was baked in the cake with the information revolution, right? Like whether or not 9/11 happened, the iPhone was still going to come out. And the iPhone, the smartphone, the computer and social media in everyone's pocket with a microphone and a camera on it, that's what changed security state and it changed the military industrial complex. It made social media and information technology a part of the military industrial complex. And
So
it made everybody a node essentially in that security apparatus.
yeah, so what you're talking about is essentially low intensity conflict.
Yeah.
And it's this is a great example of, so this is kind of what we talk about, because there's this question that we get into in the book about what would you call what we're experiencing right now. And people have tried alternately to call it a cultural revolution. They'll say, well, wait a minute, but it's not like China because people aren't like marching in the streets.
But just because it's not like China doesn't mean that it's not a cultural revolution.
Well,
I think that, go ahead.
I'm leading up to it. No. And that's correct. That's exactly right. Because we can see elements. We see the struggle sessions. We can see all of these things going on that are very similar to what happened in the Chinese Cultural Revolution.
Pulling down of statues.
The iconoclasms. It's similar to the Bolshevik Revolution. It's similar to the French Revolution. We go through all of these and pull it out. And what we've actually determined is that in the same way, and it's amazing that you mentioned technology because it's exactly right. The same way that technology has transformed kinetic warfare, it's also transformed these revolutions that we're in. And so what we actually describe is that it's a low intensity conflict. It's an irregular revolution. And within that irregular revolution, there are multiple micro revolutions going on all the time. And micro revolutions are essentially miniature revolutions that can be like within 5GW irregular revolutions. I can launch a micro revolution at timpool because he says something at on one of his shows, or a micro revolution can get launched against me because I give a speech at CPAC, and suddenly it's this tactic that goes on, and if the person falls for it, if the person breaks down, then they lose and they go out. And so it's this idea that the new technology has created a new warfare. This has already been turned into political irregular revolutionary warfare, and that's what we're living through. Because it's like you can't just you walk down the street, right, and people are saying, oh, we're not in a civil war, we're not in a everything's fine, you can kind of go around. But if you walk down the street, and I do this a lot, I was doing it on Periscope yesterday down at the Jefferson Memorial, and I was just walking around going, hey, Trump won. Hey, so Trump won, and they would say, oh, well, it's starting to get dark. That's right. It is getting dark in America under this illegitimate president because Trump won. And so the point being is, and then you see the reactions from people, they get really upset.
Yeah.
And because you're not allowed to have that opinion. So if you say an opinion you're not allowed to say, well, what's the word for that? And so the phraseology we're trying to come up with here is that it's essentially an irregular revolution.